Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome back to the channel where once again we have a new video for you guys. We just wrapped up the month of July and are now entering into the month of August, which means one thing on this channel, and that is that it is haul time. In this video, I will be going over everything that I picked up in the month of July 2024. I have a pretty decent assortment of books and I'm excited to get into them, but a quick reminder that if you do want to pick up any of the books that I'm about to mention, you can head on over to the channel sponsor organicpricebooks.com. You can use the channel's code, which is Stay Nerdy, to get $2 off your order. Or when ordering 4 or more books, you can use the code Stay Nerdy, ship it together to get 5% off your entire order. Saying that is, for some reason, weirdly difficult, but anyway, let's go ahead and move into the haul. And for those of you that are new to these videos, I do start with manga, then work my way into indie and smaller publishers, and then I usually wrap up the video with DC and Marvel. So I will have the timestamps down below, but let's go ahead and jump into it. First up for manga is a little guy, but it is an omnibus, which is Innocent by Shinichi Sakamoto. Hopefully you guys can pick up that cover a little bit more. I don't know too much about this series other than it follows a character that is from a family of executioners, and that specific character no longer wants to be an executioner. The selling point for this series for me personally is the internal artwork. From what I've heard, it is on the level of Vagabond, which is arguably manga's equivalent of Alex Ross. Here we go with the tongue twisters, which is extremely realistic, and I'm always going to show up for a book that has incredible artwork because, as I've said before in past videos, I'm just an art-forward guy. If I had to rank what I enjoy most about a comic book or manga, it's typically art before story. Obviously, different strokes for different folks, but that's usually how I function as a reader and a enjoyer of manga and comic books. But this is a very well put together volume. It is very girthy, probably a weird choice of words there, and it is sturdy as well. So I'm very excited to get into it and see if the art is as good as people say. And then our last book of manga is a big boy, where the other one was a small one. We have Vinland Saga, the deluxe edition. This is volume 3. For those of you that maybe tuned into some of my other hauls where I got volumes 1 and 2 of this particular series in this format, you may have noticed that those were red. I can leave a picture or a graphic up on the screen so you can see what I'm referencing. But yes, those volumes were red, and these volumes, or this volume, is a black color. From what I've heard, which this is not coming straight from Viz Media or anything like that, but from what I've heard, they are going to be doing every 2 volumes a different color. So the first 2 were red, and these next 2, 3, and 4 are going to be black, and then they're going to continue with other colors. I don't know if that's true, but that is what I've heard on the interwebs. But this is a great series. I am very familiar with this series. I am up to date on this series. This is a historical setting, but fictional story following the character of Thorfinn and his mission for revenge, and how the want and need of revenge kind of goes awry and doesn't go according to plan. So then you follow a lot of character growth and character development. It is a very incredible manga. It's a life-changing manga, and I recommend it to not only manga readers, but comic book readers. It's one that anybody would really enjoy reading. And first up for our smaller publishers, we do have Somna, which I feel like I'm always pronouncing that wrong. This is a distillery book. This is my first experience with distillery. I've had my eye on distillery as a publishing company for a while now because a lot of the overviews on their single issues are very similar to this. Same large scale format, but paperbacks, obviously, because they're single issues. This is the hardcover edition that collects the entire series. But these are incredible books, not this, talking like there's more than one. This is an incredible book, incredible put together book. You can definitely tell they care about the product, they care about those that are purchasing these products. And for those of you that may be wondering kind of what I'm referencing, this is the same size as a DC Black Label book. So it is going to be that magazine format, that magazine size, but in hardcover, very similar to the DC Black Label books. But really, really interested, want to continue picking up more of Distillery's titles. From what I've heard, there hasn't been a bad Distillery title so far, so I want to give it a read and weigh in my thoughts on the book as a whole when it comes to not only the story but just the art and the entire product. Then we have a little blind buy, which is Port of Earth. I need to get better at holding these books up to the camera so you can at least see the cover. This is a hardcover image edition. I have not read anything when it comes to this title. From what I've heard from some of the viewers of the community is that this isn't even finished. It's on hiatus. That's a little bit of a bummer, but I understand these things happen. But it is a blind buy. I am very interested. From what I've heard, it is a alien invasion style of story, but they want to turn Earth into a trading port, and you follow the characters of Earth, or the humans of Earth, and what they think of that situation they end up in. So it's a pretty interesting plot or story. I haven't heard of anything like it, so I'm always going to dive into something that I feel is a unique story that I haven't read in comics or seen in a movie, and this is one of them. It kind of gives District 9 vibes a little bit, but I still like that movie as well. So why not dive in, see if it's worth the buzz, see if it's worth getting an ending, which hopefully, obviously, it does get one because everybody wants an ending to a story, but still very pumped to add it into the library. And then next up, we have more Power Ranger deluxe editions, probably the prettiest books in my collection now. We can go ahead and pull this guy down so you can at least see my mouth moving instead of a disembodied voice. These books are absolutely incredible. I think Boom Studios knocked it out of the park when it comes to the cover of these books, the build of these books, the sturdiness of these books. I mean, they are seriously like bricks, tomes, whatever a way to describe a very thick, girthy, and heavy book is. And they are just beautiful. I read up to Shattered Grid. This is Beyond the Grid. So this is going to be the, I guess, tie-in issues or the issues that take place after Shattered Grid. So everything here will be new material. So very excited for that, but even more excited just to have them in this format because they are beautiful. And into DC we go. We have Batman and Catwoman, The Gotham War. This is a standard edition hardcover. This is a event that spun out of Chip Zdarsky's Batman and Tini Howard's Catwoman. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Don't read single issues, so I don't know. But from what I've heard, it's okay. I have heard that it does add some lore and some aspects to the Chip Zdarsky Batman run, which is the main reason that I picked it up, because I've been loving that run, at least everything that's been collected in hardcover and I've read at this point. So I'm just always going to want more. And I'm an event snob. When it comes to events, I'm usually going to collect it in whatever edition it's collected in because I just love comic book events. Whoops. But still exciting to get it into the library. I'm sure with the DC announcements that we've been getting lately, we'll get some deluxe edition or something that will make this purchase null and void, which will make me super happy. But nonetheless, still got it into the library, and I promise I'll stop saying nonetheless at some point. Then we have Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong. I did do a overview on this hardcover. This is a standard edition hardcover. I can leave that up above somewhere, wherever it lands as I'm uploading this video. From what I've heard from a lot of you guys, you really enjoyed this title. This injected comic books with something that a lot of you felt was missing, which is just fun. And that is honestly the best way to describe this story. This is going to be exactly what the title tells you it's going to be, which is the Justice League, the DC characters taking on Godzilla and King Kong and other kaiju creatures, maybe some other Godzilla character friendly faces or not so friendly faces making an appearance, as well as a lot of fun fan service when it comes to the characters of the DC universe taking on these massive and intimidating creatures. My only gripe is it's not in a deluxe edition. I think when you have anything kaiju related, it should be in some form of oversized format just to fit the tone of the book, including monsters in it and such. But that's really my only reasoning there. Oh, and if it had the cover that had the Godzilla or King Kong roar, that would have been pretty awesome, because that is a really, really cool single issue, and I plan to get it into my single issue collection at some point just to have, because it's so unbelievably cool. But anyway, I digress. Really good story, highly recommend it. If you want to have fun and it's pretty much brain-numbing fun, then this is a book you're going to want to get, because it is pretty much that, brain-numbing fun. Next DC book is going to be an Ollie's pickup, which pretty much means I found it for a ridiculous price at a local Ollie's and I had to pick it up. Much like a lot of you guys, when I see a deluxe edition omnibus standard size hardcover for $3 to $10, it really doesn't matter what it is, I'm usually going to pick it up. And that's the story behind this book. This is not a title I've read. This is a title that I am interested in based off the cover and the title itself, but I haven't read anything here, so this is a complete blind buy once again. But I'm pretty sure I got this, I think, for $6, and it has a cover price of $29.99. So as long as I get 1% enjoyment out of this read, it's worth the $6 that I just spent, in my opinion. And you will see more Ollie's grabs, Ollie's pickups, that's probably a better way to say it, later in the haul. So keep watching to see what else I got. And last but not least, for DC, we have probably one of the most beautiful deluxe editions DC has put out in a very, very long time. And that is, of course, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. Not only is this a beautiful story, but this is a beautiful book. Like I said, you have some gold gilded details on the dust jacket, and underneath the dust jacket, you have a very, very somber and yet colorful scene depicting Supergirl from one of the covers of this series. Absolutely incredible story. This is probably a lot of people's top read of 2023. This blew everyone's socks off, mine included, to the point that all of the hype around this book caused me to try and read it online and find out what all the hype was about. And man, was it worth it. And having it in this oversized format to see the art on much larger pages makes this deluxe edition so worth it. So if you haven't read this already, I do recommend it to really anybody. I think it makes Supergirl even more of a likable character than she already is, and pulls her out of her cousin Superman's shadow quite a bit. So I highly recommend reading it if you haven't already, and this deluxe edition is a great way to pick it up. And now we are into the Marvel portion of the video. First up, we're going to have some backlog books, some books that I found for really decent prices and I needed in the collection or wanted in the collection. I use the term need very loosely. I don't think we need any of these books, but anyway, this is Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters. This is going to be the storyline that follows Boba Fett after or post Han Solo being frozen in carbonite, and what exactly happens and what ensues following Han Solo's body and those that want to acquire it. Trying to tread carefully there. It's a pretty enjoyable read. I think if you really like the bounty hunters aspect of Star Wars, then this is going to be something you're going to want to read, because you get a lot of bounty hunters throughout this. Some known, some not known. And maybe you guys already knew that because it is called War of the Bounty Hunters. But you get some pretty cool scenes in here and a lot of respect to Boba Fett as well. So really, really recommend it. It is a canon Star Wars book, so it's adding even more into that canon comic book canon Star Wars mythos. That seemed pretty confusing there, but still very excited to have it in my possession, add it into my Star Wars collection, and eventually get around to rereading it and, of course, pumping out a review for you guys. Next up for Marvel, we have another Ollie's pickup, which is Moon Knight by Huston and Benson Omnibus. This is one of 2 Moon Knight runs that I've read, the other one being the Jeff Lemire Moon Knight run. But I think I picked this up for $30, and that's really the main reason I picked it up, was because of that price tag. I'm not a huge Moon Knight fan, obviously only reading 2 runs that he's ever had, but the main reason that I've been interested in this omnibus is probably the main reason that other people have been, which is the David Finch art. This is going to be David Finch doing his dark and gritty and grizzled and dirty artwork on a very dark and gritty character, which is Moon Knight. And this is very adult themed when it comes to the violence that takes place, a lot of the scenes that take place. So this is not going to be a read that you can hand your young son or niece and nephew or whoever it may be. This is going to be for you in a dark room, preferably. But this is going to be a very interesting read to revisit, especially since I've probably haven't read this since it was in single issues, and like I said, very underexposed to Moon Knight, so it'll be a interesting ride to dive in once I get to it. So for Marvel was another backlog book, which is Fantastic Four by John Byrne, Volume 1. I picked up Volume 2 off of the Damage section of Organic Price Books. Awesome company, shameless sponsor there. Use code STAYNERDY. But I've always been a fan of this run. This is kind of where my Fantastic Four begins, because I don't necessarily read anything before this era. I'm sorry, guys, for those of you that are huge fans of everything that comes before, the Stan Lee, Kirby stuff. Definitely respect it, but it's not my cup of tea when it comes to reading it. This is my preferred Fantastic Four starting point. This is John Byrne doing his magic touches when it comes to the Fantastic Four family, Marvel's first family, and making them even more family-like and family-oriented. But the main reason that I've always been a huge fan of this particular run is actually during more or less what takes place during the second half, which would be collected in the second omnibus, is She-Hulk joining the Fantastic Four. I'm a huge She-Hulk fan. She's probably my favorite female character in Marvel. So here we are, me picking up a Fantastic Four book, mainly because of She-Hulk. I don't know, I have weird taste, guys, I apologize, but still, more Fantastic Four. Jump to the next book. Next up is the House of M Companion Omnibus. This is the first of the new releases section during this Marvel portion of the video. This is also probably my favorite cover of this month. So beautiful. That Magneto reflection of the Avengers, Wolverine included, just so breathtaking, absolutely beautiful. So what this is essentially going to be is a companion, because of the fact that it has some issues to read before House of M, and then it has issues to read post House of M, and it also has some tie-in House of M issues that cover characters from the House of M universe. So it's kind of all over the place, hence why it's called a companion and not like a volume 2 or anything. It just collects House of M related issues, essentially. Now, this is going to be something that I'm still happy to get into the collection because it's going to look beautiful next to the House of M omnibus, but I don't think this is necessarily essential reading by any means. If you have the House of M omnibus, you're probably good to stop there. This isn't going to be something you need to understand House of M or anything like that. I don't even think it really adds that much to the House of M omnibus either, but that's me. If you disagree, comment down below, let people know. We're a community, so help each other out, steer each other in the right direction when it comes to what books to get. But still, beautiful cover, so worth the mention for the cover alone at least, but I still picked it up, so we can go to the next book. Next up is a Max Omnibus, technically still Marvel Omnibus, but Max Omnibus because it's going to be very much geared towards adult readers, and that is The Punisher by Garth Ennis, Volume 1. I'm kicking myself for not picking up that Volume 2 that I mentioned probably a year ago in one of my videos back when I was looking at venues to get married, so that's how long ago it was. This is going to be one of the definitive runs on the character of the Punisher between Garth Ennis' stuff and Jason Aaron's stuff. That's usually what you're going to get. But this is going to be an incredible read if you did pick it up. This is going to be Punisher at his worst when it comes to the violence and the blood and gore, but a lot of really solid stories through here, from Born to the Slavers storyline. Both of those alone are worth the price of admission of this omnibus, so definitely some solid reading here, but you have to have a strong stomach because Frank does some pretty morally questionable things throughout this omnibus. Not that everything he does is morally questionable, which it is, but some of the stuff that takes place in here is very, very, very adult oriented. So just be aware when diving in or trying to pick up this omnibus. Next up, we have a Star Wars Legends omnibus. So this is not going to be canon material, and this is Star Wars The New Republic, Volume 2. The main selling point of this omnibus is, which is the same for me, is going to be the Dark Empire storyline that's collected in here. This is going to be the storyline that is essentially episodes 7, 8, and 9 pre The Force Awakens and Rey Skywalker trilogy of movies. So if you want to see kind of what direction they were going post episode 6, this is going to be an omnibus you might want to pick up because it's going to cover the Dark Empire storyline, which follows some very reminiscent story elements from what we saw in the Rey Skywalker trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9, but in a kind of different form and fashion, and it's going to follow strictly Luke and his supporting cast and maybe his family. You know, we'll dive in and find out. But really good stuff, really worth the read. This was my first ever Star Wars Legends material or Star Wars Dark Horse comic that I ever read, and I fell in love after that point, and that's what really made me dive deep into the lore of Star Wars. But still worth picking up if you haven't already. Definitely some solid stuff in here, and if you're not a huge fan of episodes 7, 8, and 9, then maybe this is something you're going to want to read and get a second crack at that storyline. Next up, we have Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Mark Bagley, Omnibus Volume 1. At least I think it's a Volume 1. Yes, it is a Volume 1. I did do an overview on this particular omnibus, which I can leave up above somewhere. Once again, I never know how to change what side it's on as I smack myself in the hat. But this is really, really good stuff. This is going to be essentially a Marvel team-up book that stars Spider-Man. You're going to see Punisher in here, Moon Knight in here, Night Thrasher, Nova, just to name a few characters that make an appearance in here, as well as a lot of Venom. So if you like those things, if you like the friendly neighborhood aspect of The Amazing Spider-Man, then this is going to be a great omnibus to pick up, because you're going to see Spider-Man with all of his friends, kicking ass, taking names, taking on pretty much every member of his rogues gallery. If you can't tell by the cover depicts what's in here very, very well. But this is the DM variant cover. Anyway, I digress once again. Still really good stuff, solid Spider-Man content in here and worth the read. Next up is Daredevil Shadowland, the omnibus, or what I like to call it is Daredevil by Andy Diggle, the omnibus, because in this omnibus, you're essentially going to get the Andy Diggle run on the character of Daredevil. This is going to be primarily a event omnibus, though. This is a event that circulates around Daredevil. This is one of the few times before we got Devil's Reign that we had a full-scale, full-fledged crossover event focusing on a street-level character like Daredevil. So it was exciting at the time. Post reading it and know how everything plays out, maybe not as exciting. I don't think I dislike this event as much as other readers, but it's not Marvel's strongest event by any means. But like I said previously in this video and previously in probably other videos, I like events. I love events. I read to get to events. I feel like they're the climax of stories. I tend to not get event fatigue typically. It's just the next big thing that I read into and focus onto. Maybe I'm just a dumb reader. That's probably the case. Or maybe I just love comic books. Who knows? But still exciting to get this reprint in because I think this was going for some pretty crazy prices there for a while. And now we have a reprint, so no one has to do that. So still happy, pumped to get in. And then we have a lot of people's most anticipated release of this month, which is Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky, Volume 1. This is a lot of people's favorite Daredevil run. This is going to be a Daredevil run that we will probably remember forever. This will definitely go down in history because of how impressed everyone was during this run, beginning, middle, and end. It is that good. I very much enjoy every aspect of this run, including what will be collected in the second omnibus, which is the Devil's Reign event, which we got the omnibus for last haul. I can leave that up above somewhere if you want to watch that. But such an incredible run on Daredevil. Chip Zdarsky is such a funny, goofy, zany guy. I mean, his interviews will have you belly laughing, but he knows how to write dark characters. Maybe he has a darkness within that we aren't aware of, but he just knows how to write dark characters. He's doing that now with Batman. He did it with Daredevil. He just knows what he's doing when it comes to darker characters, writing in general, but specifically darker characters. So super excited to have this in omnibus format. I think they did finish this in oversized hardcover format, but that was before they discontinued that format. So now we have the omnibus, and I am pumped to have it in. And last but not least, the voice is struggling. We have Captain America by Mark Gruenwald, Volume 1. I said the House of M Companion was the winner of the best cover. This is the winner of the best cover. I don't know how I forgot about this, maybe because it was at the bottom of the stack. Anyway, this is going to be arguably a lot of people's favorite runs on Captain America. This is going to have a very massive focus on Captain America finding who he is and where he fits in the Marvel world, what he represents. I mean, the list could go on. There's so many underlying focuses when it comes to the plot and the storyline that takes place throughout this omnibus. But this is also where you're going to get the Captain portion or era of Captain America, where you're going to get Johnny Walker becoming the new Captain America, who eventually becomes a US agent. So you're going to get a lot of things that become very important to the character of Captain America really being built up and established throughout this run, and it is so incredible. Highly recommend it. This is a great starting point. I think this run reads beautifully for modern readers. So even if you're not a 1980s, 1970s reader of comic books, I think any modern reader could pick this up and really, really enjoy it because it is action heavy. It's not overbearing with its dialogue. It is just beautiful, and I highly recommend it. And that does wrap up today's video. Thank you each and every one of you guys that tune in and watch weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. If you watch me gush about comic books, thank you. I appreciate you. Let me know down below what you guys picked up during the month of July. It was a very, very heavy month. It was not an easy month to keep up with release-wise, but I still like to hear from you all. That way I can hear what maybe I slept on, what maybe I need to circle back and pick up when I have the chance. So leave those comments down below and let me know. And if you are watching this and you are not a part of the community, you can hit that little subscribe button and join the community today. It's my favorite place to be on the internet during our live streams, our community posts, videos, whatever it may be. We have a nice dialogue. We talk comics. We gush about comics. We say whatever we feel like about comics, and that's why this place is great and everyone is welcome. If you could do me a favor while you're there and hit that little thumbs up icon, and if you did enjoy today's video and you want to turn on notifications, you can ring that bell. That way you can get notified anytime we put out content here on the channel. But once again, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. And of course, as always, stay nerdy.